tell us about your art and how it fits into your conception of Fannie and how you made this portrait. If you want me to, I can put up a photo of that it's based on.
Please, because the lighting is difficult to work with. I'm still getting used to my new space here.
Do you want me to put up a close-up of the photo of the art? The art or do you want me to put up the photo of the art or the image?
The photo of the painting.
Okay.
First. I love that photo of her and
so
Hurley.
Yeah. I'll zoom out here of this is with full lighting, and then maybe zoom in on her face.
It's full lighting. I like how in the process I ended up with this sort of background that definitely glows different in different lighting, and as you move from one side of the painting to the other. What had started as a very much more traditional, and it is still very traditional, portrait, the background, I ended up just being like, I just got this, it just hit me where it was like, I want an energetic element of that photo that everyone does remember her by, which is the bludgeoned, shot 4 times, just astonishing evidence of
brutal.
Yes. So the brutality of the company men in that particular town. It's like, wow. And we're seeing what humans are capable of this year more than ever. But you and I went back and forth. On what we were going to do, and decided on doing this traditional, very dignified portrait, something similar to what many of the society elites were having done. And we used the photograph, which is already very much so. And if you zoom in on both of the photographs we use, one is more youthful, the other is she's a little older. What is it, 1915, I believe. And you just see that.
Is this the one you're meaning?
Yes, just the brilliant defiance and intelligence, and the kind of eyes that look right through you. I think it's so nice and clear on the cover of that. Of the
book of Fannie Never Flinched. That you
yes,
can look at. It's a Photoshop version, but the fact is that the dimensions are so flat. Even with the photoshopping, this is still taken from this image, right? And so what I think you're doing is bringing out,
I think too the
body. I mean, look at the difference here. You can't.
That was a challenge, and I was looking and reading about her, and comparing the photo when she was younger. To get technical here, I had originally gone more from the one that we just looked at, and then I ended up overlapping it with the one. I don't know if you have that you can bring up. If you search Fannie Sellins, that comes up very much. It's on her Wikipedia profile. And
is it the one of her in prison or?
No.
Okay.
I'll send it to you as we speak here. It's it was a challenge for me because I usually work from those older black and whites and that have a very high contrast, much more snapshot. And this was opposed, here I'm gonna see, okay, I found a very faint one. And this one, and it's hard with some of these older photos of historical figures that weren't, I need to send this an email. to find ones that weren't photoshopped. And at some point I'm like, oh my gosh, is the dress on this one the same body? Like I couldn't even tell like which face originally went with which one. And in the end I was like, you know what, I'm just combining all of these and creating something that is, you know, messing with the lighting, making it something that would be more original to what I'm working with. I started looking up, okay, who would, you know, John Singer Sargent was the portrait artist of that time in the art world, in society. I started researching his technique more. My original portrait, I hadn't done a traditional portrait like this since I would say 2010 or so. You know, it'd been about 10 years. And that I was trained in a more, we're talking about is the one time I went to a class and got some, I went to a Rembrandt style oil painting class, and I got caught up in this sort of Sargent approach, and I was going to get it so traditional and to the time. And then towards the end, and I decided to overlap it with this photo of her when she's younger. I wanted to let more loose. I wanted, like, I was just watching what's going on with the energy of the times and people marching in the streets and like people, you know, not even able to pay their bills when COVID starts, all of a sudden is stripped away. People don't have medical insurance, you know, and then everybody else is freaking out. Well, I just want to go shopping, you know, and I'm just like, and so I ended up just adding some more movement in there, overlapping it when she's younger, because there are no photos that were really clear about that. And I just want to remember that time of her as a young mother with 4 kids in this factory being like, hey, no more. And so it ended up.
Sorry, could I put up the picture of John, portrait from the times that you were thinking about?
Well, this is the one that I first came across that we have in our Fine Arts Center downtown Colorado Springs. And I thought of this one. I walked by it. I was there visiting there, and just looking at the painting, the strokes, and getting in there and looking. It's just a beautiful painting. And wanting to be like, you know what, she was just as important as this girl, you know, true to the time. And so I sort of had this cycle with the piece, this energetic, like, okay, I'm going to study Sargent. I want to bring more of that into my technique as I do this. And then at some point stopping and being like, okay, I want to go back to my nitty gritty, looser style and do this. And, almost like kind of like I had started to glorify him in my mind a little bit. And I think a lot of this year too, for me and for a lot of people, is letting our heroes fall. And I won't even really get into that, but if you research Sargent and just, there are 2 different separate documentaries, and they both have a very separate representation of some of the time of his life in the US at the later time of his life. And I mean, we can go into that later if we have time. And I'm just going to put in some links of where people who really spoke clearly about it and know more about it at the bottom. And yeah, so I ended up coming back, and the background was much more traditional too, and it still is, but at some point I was just like, no, it's going to be red. Like I almost didn't, because I'm like, it's going to look bloody and brutal, because that's what's on my mind, because I know like what the end was. But, and I was like, whatever it is, it's her truth.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think the red of revolution though too was something that inspired her